In the dusky, enchanted depths of the forest, a solitary traveler treks under the silvery light of the moon. The only sounds are his footsteps and the whispers of the woods. Suddenly, a distant call breaks the silence. A child's voice, pleading for help. It draws the man from the path deeper into the untamed thickets. He strikes up a torch, and in that very instant, a ghastly shriek pierces the air from above. The Pilfering Moth, a vile creature of the forest, has been lying in wait. Attracted by the flame, it descends, a flurry of spores bursting from its wings, paralyzing its prey. The moth, a sinister hunter known for mimicking voices of its past victims, makes its dreadful move. As the man lies incapacitated, the moth commits a final atrocity, stealing his face and voice for its macabre collection, ensuring its continued deception and predation in the forest's shadowy realm. Welcome back, adventurers! Joel D.D. Algren here, bringing you another Monster Monday. Today, we are looking at a creature that prowls the deep places in the woods. The one with 1,000 voices. The Pilfering Moth, a monstrosity like no other, known for stealing both the faces and voices of its victims. As always, we will take a look at this creature's traits and abilities, how it might work in combat, and the lore surrounding them. This will hopefully give you some idea of how to use them in your campaign settings. But before that, I do have a small favor to ask you. If you do enjoy my content and want to see more, please consider subscribing. It would be fantastic to get more people here to share my passion with. Let's start out by taking a look at some of the lore behind the Pilfering Moth. It is a sinister creature by nature, known for its cunning hunting strategies. It usually uses voices stolen from its previous victims, luring unsuspecting travelers into the depths of the forests, using its spores to incapacitate its victims before injecting them with its venom to kill them. As it does this, it carves off their faces to be placed as a sick trophy on their wings with the faces of all its other victims. No one truly knows why they do this bizarre ritual of stealing others' faces, however. Some think it might be a form of display to attract a mate, or a way to show dominance in the face of other predators. No pun intended. Whatever the case may be, it is a macabre sight. The wings of an adult pilfering moth strikes fear even in the strongest will of people. With this bit of lore in mind, let's take a look at its stats. The Pilfering Moth is a CR3 neutral evil large monstrosity with an AC of 16 and 59 or 17 D10 minus 34 HP. With a walking speed of only 10, but with a flight speed of 50. This creature obviously prefers flight over anything else. It is a physically weak creature as seen from both its strength and constitution score. This was a deliberate choice as moths in nature are fairly weak in body. But as they are pretty quick, I did bump up their dexterity to reflect that with an 18. I wanted its mental stats to be a bit higher as well, as I see them as a fairly clever hunter, and I thought this would reflect that pretty well. The charisma more so, as it is supposed to be good at impersonations and deceit. It is proficient in perception and has expertise in both deception and persuasion. Again, this is to reinforce the fact that they can easily draw people in. I gave it saving throws in dexterity, this again to reflect its speed. Dark vision, as it likes to hunt at night. It does not speak a language per se, but can perfectly mimic any language it has heard. The moth sports two different traits. First, we have the trait drawn by the light. Just like a normal moth, the pilfering moth is drawn to open flames. And anytime it does see one for the first time on its turn, it needs to make a DC 14 wisdom saving throw or be drawn to the light. It must use all its movement to do so. It is so distracted by the flame that all dexterity and strength saving throws are made at disadvantage, and all attacks against it have advantage. However, it can end early if the light disappears from view or if it takes an attack. I was not sure if it should end just after an attack, but I left it in just mainly for balance reasons. Its second and last trait is its perfect mimicry ability that lets it mimic any voice from a creature that it has consumed. This is the ability it uses to hunt with, luring unsuspecting victim into its traps. When it comes to its actions, the pilfering moth is no pushover, however. First, it has its razor tongue, a +6 to hit attack with a reach of 10 feet, dealing 1d6 + 4 slashing damage and forcing a DC 12 con save. On a failed save, the target suffers 2 points of bleed damage at the start of each of its turns. Anyone can use an action to make a DC 14 wisdom or medicine check to end this effect early. A use of a healer's kit will also end the effect early without having to do a check. I decided not to let players end this effect with a spell, as I felt this was more thematic and also a good way to remind players that there are other useful items, such as the healer's kit, that can be used in situations like this. Its second attack is its stinger, also +6 to hit, but with a shorter range of 5 feet. However, it uses the moth's strength score for its damage modifier, so it only does 1d6 -1 for its damage. But it will also try and inject a venom into its victim, forcing a DC 12 con save again, but on a fail this time it deals 2d4 poison damage. However, similar to a giant spider, if a creature drops to 0 hit points with this, they do not die. Instead, they are poisoned and paralyzed by this poison for up to 1 hour. Next up is its Spore Burst attack. On a recharge of 5 to 6, this is an attack it makes with its wings, filling an area of 15 feet radius around it with spores, making each creature in the area do a DC 12 Constitution saving throw or become incapacitated, and reducing their speed to 0. They can make a new save at the end of each of their turns, or if they take damage. Last but not least is its Wing Mirage. This makes a pattern of lights and motions on its wings, forcing a DC 12 Wisdom saving throw for any creature that can see the moth in a 15-foot cone in front of it. The effect that happens is somewhat random each time. The DM needs to roll a d6 to see what truly happens. The outcomes are sleep. A creature falls asleep and remains unconscious for 1 minute. They awake if they take any damage or if another creature uses its action to shake them awake. This effect, however, does not affect constructs or undead. Next is Psychic Assault. You take 2d6 psychic damage or half if you save against the effect. Then, Charm. The affected targets are charmed by the moth for 1 hour or until the moth harms the creature. After that, we have confusion. Creatures affected must make a melee weapon attack before moving on their turn. They are compelled to attack the nearest target available, other than themselves, and should always prioritize targets other than the Moth. If multiple potential targets are equally close, the affected creature must choose one at random, or you can have the Dungeon Master do the decision as well, of course. Slow. The target speed is halved for 1 minute. In addition, the creature cannot take reactions and can take either an action or a bonus action on its turn. Not both. Last is fear. A creature is just straight up under the frightened condition. So that's all 6 of them. However, it is important to note that Wing Mirage cannot be used unless Spore Burst is charged, effectively giving this ability a recharge as well, but tying it to another effect rather than itself. How might we use these creatures in combat? Well, the way I think about it is that this creature will always try to hide, to observe the pieces first and get in a surprise round in any combat encounter. Always try to drop in from above the pieces into the center of as many of them as possible to use Spore Bursts first to incapacitate as many of them as possible in one go. Doing this so that it can take down whatever it deems the biggest threat immediately. Almost always going for spellcasters or healers first. It is an intelligent creature, so it would be able to figure this out, especially if it has the time to observe them before attacking. It will almost never use the Stinger as its first attack, instead opting to use Razor Tongue first to inflict damage at a safer distance, testing the durability, so to speak, of its prey. Only really using the Stinger when it thinks it can take down the target for good, i.e. using the venom to paralyze them. As well as only really relying on the Spore Burst attack in the beginning of a fight, for instance. Instead opting to use the Winged Mirage after the first time it has used Spore Burst. So that's sort of how I think the Pilfering Moth would act in combat. Now that we have looked at some lore, its stat block and how it might work in combat. But what about a small scenario? How can we use this in a setting? A fun way to use this creature could be something like the party has been asked to help with the disappearances of a small town's children or a village children. As they investigate, they might hear that the children disappeared close to the forest, and that people have been hearing voices of these children coming from the woods at night, accompanied by a light display from deep within. However, when they search, the sound stops, the lights disappear. Later on, they might also find out that 1 or 2 adults have disappeared as well, maybe the parents of the missing children. You could also use the fact that the Pilfering Moth likes to attack and eat more isolated targets, and by implying that fewer traveling merchants have been showing up. You could do this even by having like vital supplies be in low stock or not in stock at all maybe. If the players notice this, let them know that the merchants have not been seen for a long time, right? When the players eventually ventures into the woods, you could have them find a corpse, drained of all its bodily fluids, and even missing its face, like someone or something has carved it off. Here we could also hint at its Stinger attack, by having a larger puncture wound somewhere on the body, maybe even hinting at the spores if the players roll a good enough investigation or medicine check. As they continue deeper, obviously, it's just a matter of time before they confront the monster. At this point, they will probably also have heard voices of the children coming from the woods, begging for help, using this to set the mood, of course. But you should also keep in mind that even if the moth tries to stalk them a bit to find out who they are or what they can do, if they have an open flame, the moth will probably attack pretty much immediately, being drawn to the flame, as stated in its drawn to the light trait, right? So that should always be kept in mind here as well. With this lore, the stat blocks, combat strategies, and some hints to how you might use it in your world, I do hope you have gotten some ideas of the ways you actually want to use them. And I would love to hear your ideas now as well. So please leave a comment about how you would use it and what you think about this gruesome monstrosity as a whole. You can find the raw stat block for this over at my Patreon for free from this Monday until the next one. Link in the description, of course. And as always, there is both a colorized PDF with some art and lore, as well as a print-friendly version of the same one for my $5 patrons there. As I said, all this is linked in the description below, as well as links to my Facebook page, my Instagram, and all my other social medias there too. Thank you all so much for watching till the end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. Until next time, adventurers, keep your dice rolling and your imagination flowing.